I sat down with Dr. Momo Vuyisich from Biome to talk about the new observational study between novel Biome and Biome. Dr. Momo is the co-founder, chief science officer, and head of clinical research from Biome. And in this video, we talk about Biome and this new and exciting study. In summary, Novel Biome is partnering with Biome to partake in an observational study to better understand the microbial determinants of autism spectrum disorder, as well as get better insight into donor matching when it comes to FMT. This study is open to people with a U.S. mailing address and who are current patients of Novel Biome. So to learn more about the study, you can contact Novel Biome. The link to our website is in the description. So let's hear from Dr. Momo. So the first one, I guess, just tell me a little bit about Biome and its mission and its kind of goal of wanting to understand the gut microbiome.
So it's very important that people understand that I represent Biome Life Sciences and that we are a systems biology company, and we're trying to digitize the human microbiome and the human transcriptome or human gene activity in as many humans as we can, and learn what is it about the environment and the microbiome and the human genes that makes some people healthy and makes some other people sick with different diseases and cancers. So that's the overall mission of the company. There is a part of the company called Biome, which has a website called biome.com, and that specifically is focused on some wellness products that Biome has spun out, which are direct-to-consumer tests for stool, saliva, and blood, and supplements. But that's really not the part of the company that I am on. I'm on the research side of the company, and I also am the head of clinical research at Biome, which means that I'm responsible for all of our clinical research programs, including this one that we're going to discuss today, and that clinical research is what feeds the knowledge at Biome to enable us to actually put out applications such as wellness applications and diagnostic applications and therapeutic applications.
Perfect. And so I guess, can you talk a little bit about Novel Biome and Biome and kind of how this study and this collaboration came to be?
Yeah. So Dr. Klopp approached me and was very interested in working with us in some kind of a capacity, knowing that we have a very advanced stool test and machine learning and all that. And so we met and brainstormed. And so we created this study that basically satisfies the needs of both companies. And so our company seeks to understand what are the nutritional and environmental and microbial and human components that are contributing to the onset, maintenance, and progression of autism syndrome, right? Dr. Klopp is interested in improving the efficacy of fecal microbiota transplants for ASD patients. And so one thing that he would really like to know is, I have a bank of donors, and when I have a new autism patient, I would like to give that patient the best stool that I can give for them. But currently, there is no mathematical algorithm that says, okay, out of these 100 stool samples you have on the shelf, pick this one. And that one is going to have the highest efficacy with the lowest side effects. We don't have that algorithm. And so this study is then going to have two specific goals. One goal is, can we develop a mathematical algorithm that understands exactly the stool microbiome of the autism patient and the stool microbiome of the donor, and based on learning from this study, make a calculation that says, okay, given 100 different or however many different donors I have in my bank, for this patient, which donor is going to have the highest chance of having positive outcomes and have the smallest chance of any side effects And so if we can develop that computational algorithm, that means that in the future, Dr. Klopp can actually use mathematics to decide which donor is actually going to be the best for every patient. So that's one goal. The other goal is, we are going to analyze all of the samples provided by the patients and then ask the machines, basically using machine learning approaches, okay, what are the components that most contribute to this disease relative to healthy controls? And so hopefully, our hope is always that from any clinical research study, we identify the microbial and nutritional components and human gene components that contribute to the disease, and then we can develop a mechanism for preventing or reversing those components from acting up. So, for example, one of the major efforts at Viome is to come up with personalized nutritional recommendations and supplement recommendations that can modulate microbiome functions such that the microbiome becomes healthy and it stops being unhealthy for the person. And so that's basically our first goal: is how can we test someone's gut microbiome, and then from what we learned from this study, tell that person with autism, hey, you should avoid these foods and you should consume these foods, and your microbiome will be the most healthy for you, so that we can shift the balance. And that's what basically FMT does. FMT basically replaces someone's microbiome that is associated with autism to a microbiome that looks more like a healthy microbiome. But there's an additional component, because that only changes the composition of the microbiome, but it's really the function of the microbiome, what it's actually doing, that determines the health status of a person. And what the microbiome is doing depends on what you feed it. And so the example I like to give is that if you feed yeast barley, it will make you beer. But if you feed it lettuce, it will never make you beer, ever. And so you have to combine the composition of the microbiome, in this particular case, a yeast, a brewer's yeast, with a particular food component, which is contained in barley and not in lettuce, and it will make ethanol. And so if we, from our studies, conclude in this particular case that ethanol is good for a person, we would feed their microbiome. If we find this yeast, we would feed them barley, and we would recommend them to eat barley. And if we conclude that ethanol is detrimental to them, then we would ask them, do not eat barley, and therefore that microbiome cannot produce ethanol, which is associated with disease, and therefore we stop that, right? So it's functional modulation of the microbiome. But that's obviously not the scope of this study. This study is simply an observational study to learn about what the components are that affect autism, and then in the future studies we would then try to address those with nutritional intervention.
Yeah, so at this point, it's an observational study, just trying to getting a groundwork of the two sides of what does the gut microbiome in autism look like? Can we get a full understanding of that, as well as can we get a better understanding of donor recipient kind of matching and kind of melding? And I think you're right. We talk about that with our patients, and it's one of the questions I get asked a lot. You do have to feed your gut microbiome. And we put a new gut microbiome in, we have to feed it. But I think getting an understanding of what foods are good, what ones are detrimental, and which ones kind of can enhance some aspects, I think is an important kind of long-term goal of basically first understand the building blocks and then understand what you can build with them. And I think that's what the observational study will kind of start with, which is really exciting. And so I guess that's the main questions that I had for you today. Is there anything else you'd want to share about the study? I know you're really passionate about this, but is there anything you'd want to share?
Well, let's just inform your patients how to sign up for the study, and then maybe I can tell what it entails a little bit.
Yeah. So for the way to connect with the study is to connect through Novel Biome. So you can reach out to us through our website, or you can reach out, which is www.novelbiome.com, or you can reach out via email. So you can reach out to me, which is shana@novelbiome.com, which will both be in the descriptor of the video. And so then you can reach out, and then we can kind of connect you. Once you get an understanding of the study, we'll connect you with the way to kind of sign up for the study through Novel Biome.
Great. Yeah. So let me describe the study a little bit. So this is an observational study, and in order to participate in the study, the patient has to be a patient at Novel Biome. It cannot be just a random person. They have to be a patient that are going to undergo a treatment at Novel Biome, an FMT treatment. And so what we're asking people is to collect stool, blood, and saliva samples prior to the FMT treatment, and then after the FMT treatment, and then one more time a few months afterwards. So at three time points, we're asking them to collect these samples. These samples can be collected at home. In fact, they are collected at home. Viome Life Sciences provides all of the sample collection kits and instructions and prepaid mailers. Only people who have a shipping address in the United States are eligible to participate in this study. This assumes that they would be then residents of the United States. But if people are in another country, unfortunately, we do not have ethical approvals for people who live in other countries. And so we would basically ship them all the sample collection kits. They would collect the kits and ship them back to us using prepaid return mailers. And I just want to make sure that people understand that participation is optional, sample collection is optional. For example, if some participants do not like to or do not want to collect blood, that's okay. Stool is the most critical component. If they are not willing to collect stool, then they should not participate, because that's going to be the most important sample. But if they are willing to collect stool, even if they're not willing to collect blood or they cannot collect blood, that's okay. They can still participate. Those are optional samples. Saliva obviously is easy to collect. And yeah, that's it. Basically, we will collect their medical records about the patient from Novel Biome. So Novel Biome will share the medical records in terms of the age, the gender, and any kind of medications they're taking, any kind of other conditions they're taking, and the severity of the disease. And we are particularly interested, for machine learning purposes, what was the differential between the pre-FMT and the post-FMT level of the disease, because we need to tell the machines, hey, these patients improved and these patients improved little and a lot, and then these patients did not improve and these patients got worse. And that's exactly what the machines are going to use then to say, okay, could I have actually predicted that based on the molecular data that we obtained from the samples? And if the machines come back and say, yep, we could have actually predicted the outcome before the FMT ever took place, now the machines basically will build a mathematical algorithm to tell us what is it in the donor sample that will make it successful for a very particular patient. So every patient will be different. And if we can have that model, then we can actually perform a blinded study where we do the same thing, but now we don't tell the machines what the outcome is. We ask the machines to predict it, and then we'll match it to the actual outcome and see how well they do that. And if they do that well, if they do that better than guess, so we don't need to have 100% accuracy, as long as the machines are better than guessing, meaning 50-50, so that people can experience the biggest benefit and risk the smallest side effects. That's it.
Perfect. Yeah. And so that's why, to start the process, it would be, coming through Novel Biome and figuring out if you'd be a good match for FMT. And then if so, we can connect you with the study and make that a good match.